What's up guys, Shinzo here, and I'm going to Arizona, which is about 1,000 miles from my house here in San Antonio. Originally I was just going to ride my bike out there, but I've got a lot of luggage, so I decided to take a bike hauler, aka my wife's car. So I decided to go and equip it with this Sport Rack bike holder. So I'll go and show you guys how I installed it, and we'll see how it holds up over the 1,000 mile trip from San Antonio to Mesa. Let's do it. So this is the Sport Rack Pursuit SR3161 trunk mounted bike holder. It claims to hold 2 bikes, but I only used it for one. A name brand trunk mounted rack can cost upwards of $200, but I bought this budget rack on Amazon for only $100. This is my first time using a trunk mounted rack, and to be honest, I was a little uncomfortable about it. If you follow my adventure, you know that I usually haul my bike using a tailgate pad. This design is simpler and more secure than a trunk rack, but unfortunately, it's not an option on my wife's Toyota Corolla. If you're like me and you're nervous about trusting a value rack to safely haul your precious bike, then hopefully this video will address most of your concerns and shed light on some things that you might want to consider when buying, installing, and using this rack. Before ordering this rack, be sure to check with the manufacturer to make sure that it's compatible with your car and your bike. Some bikes do require an adapter to fit, so it's worth checking ahead of time. So let's crack this box open and get this thing installed. At first glance, it looks like a tangled mess of bars and straps, but after taking a closer look, I noticed that the material seems strong and sturdy, with the exception of these adjustment knobs, which seem kinda cheap. The holder consists of the rack itself, 6 straps to secure to your trunk, 1 strap to help prevent sway, and enough rubber straps to help secure 2 bikes. The first thing you'll want to do is to clean the surface of your trunk where the rack will be mounted. You need to adjust the bars to a setting that puts the top bar at a slightly upward angle and places the bike cradles away from your trunk, so you have enough room to mount your bike. You can adjust this using those cheap janky knobs that I mentioned earlier. The plastic here is soft and tends to stick, so it can be tricky to loosen these up if you need to readjust. Next, it's time to place the bars on the trunk and get ready to connect the straps. My instinct here was to set the lower bar just above the rear bumper for support, but I later had to move it up higher on the trunk to achieve a better fit. Once you've got the placement dialed in, you're ready to secure the straps. There's 3 on each side and they come with hooks to secure them to your trunk. You'll have a strap for the top, middle, and bottom of your trunk on each side. With all the hooks in place, you're ready to tighten down the straps until everything is nice and secure. Feel free to test it out before you set your bike on it. Now you can set your bike on the cradles and use the rubber straps to secure the top tube to the cradles. These straps are snug, and I would recommend stretching them first just to make them a little bit easier to attach. There's also an anti-sway cradle that attaches to the seat tube to help prevent your bike from swaying back and forth. It's a bit closer to my rear shock than I would prefer, but it's just something that I'm going to have to deal with. There's also an extra strap that's designed to help prevent sway. The directions recommend running it through the frame in a figure 8 pattern. You can probably get by without using it, but I chose to use it for my first ride. I also use an old bungee cord to help keep the front tire from swaying. That's optional, but I'd recommend it. Here's a quick look at the clearance. Adding another bike would definitely be a tight squeeze, and would probably depend on the size of your bikes. But for my application, I'm considering this a 1 bike holder, and not a 2 bike holder, as it's advertised. Another thing worth mentioning is that this holder does not come with any retainers for the straps, so once I got the rack secured, I cut off a good portion of the excess straps. They later frayed while I was on the road and made a huge mess. It was kind of a bonehead mistake on my part, but it was a quick fix. I just cut off the frayed sections and used a lighter to burn the ends. With the install and mount complete, let's see how it does on the road. I'll be honest, for the first hour or so, I was really nervous about losing my bike on the highway, and I kept checking my rearview mirror just to make sure that everything was good. But I stopped to fuel up a few times on my way to Arizona, and I took some time to inspect the rack and make sure the bike was nice and secure. I found no indication that the straps were going to loosen up or anything like that. For the most part, the bike seemed just as snug and secure as it was when I left San Antonio, so that was reassuring. I did hit a few road bumps along the way, and I was driving into a pretty strong headwind, but the rack did its job and helped me get my bike safely to Arizona. Where I'll be living, working, riding, and filming for the next 3 months, so if you're new here, be sure to sub so you don't miss out on the adventure. So my final word on the Sport Rack SR3161 bike holder is that I dig it. And for $100, I would recommend it if you're in the market for a value trunk mounted bike rack. As always, thanks for watching, stay stoked, and I'll see you in the next one.